Commander John Hayes stared at the strange object through the reinforced glass of the research chamber. The artifact was about the size of a football, oval-shaped, with a smooth surface that seemed to shift between deep blue and purple depending on the angle of light. Scientists had found it buried in the ice of Europa 3 weeks ago, and no one could figure out what it was. "Any progress, Dr. Miller?" John asked, his breath fogging slightly in the cold laboratory aboard the Europa research station. Lisa Miller shook her head, frustration clear in her eyes. "Nothing makes sense. It's not made of any material we recognize. It absorbs all attempts at scanning. It's just waiting." John nodded, his gaze fixed on the object. Earth had established colonies on Mars 15 years ago, and the Europa base only 5 years back. Humanity was still new to space exploration beyond their solar system. Finding alien technology was unprecedented. "Let me see it again," John said. Lisa hesitated. The director said no more direct contact experiments. "The director isn't here," John replied with a slight smile. "And we both know nothing happens unless a human touches it." It was true. The artifact remained dormant when handled by drones or robotic arms. But when human skin made contact, the surface came alive with faint symbols that glowed a soft blue before fading again. Lisa sighed but entered the code to unlock the chamber. John put on a thin pair of gloves and stepped inside. The air was even colder here, and he could see his breath clearly now. He approached the artifact slowly. The last time he touched it, he'd had strange dreams for a week afterward. Dreams of stars and distant worlds he couldn't possibly know. But there was something pulling him back to it, like a whisper he couldn't quite hear. John removed his right glove and placed his palm flat against the artifact's surface. The reaction was immediate. The object pulsed with light, much stronger than before. Symbols appeared across its surface, flowing like water. John felt a strange warmth spreading up his arm and into his chest. For a brief moment, he saw impossible things: vast space fleets, worlds with twin suns, and humans with light flowing from their hands and eyes. He pulled away, gasping. "John, are you okay?" Lisa's voice came through the intercom, concerned. "I'm fine," he said, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true. "Did you record that?" The symbols were much clearer this time. "All captured," Lisa confirmed, her fingers flying across her tablet. I don't even know what this is, but it's responding to you, specifically to you." Across the galaxy, in a vast chamber constructed from materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, 12 beings sat around a circular table. None looked remotely human. Some had multiple limbs. Others appeared almost gaseous, contained within environmental suits. "The report is confirmed," said a tall, slender creature with 4 arms and skin like polished amber. "Humans have discovered a precursor artifact on their moon Europa." A ripple of distress moved through the gathering. "Has it activated?" asked another being, this one with features that seemed avian, with feathers that shifted color with its mood, currently a deep worried purple. "Preliminary activation only," replied the first. "But our sensors detected an energy signature consistent with genetic unlocking protocols." Silence fell heavily across the chamber. "After 50,000 years of dormancy," whispered a third being, its voice like stones grinding together, "the containment measures are failing." The tallest figure at the table rose. Unlike the others, this one seemed almost crystalline, with a body structure that refracted light in complex patterns. "The prophecy spoke of this day," it said gravely, "when humans would begin to remember what they once were. We all know what they are capable of if they fully awaken." "We should implement protocol containment immediately," suggested the amber-skinned being, "before more of them connect with the artifacts." The crystalline figure seemed to consider this. "Prepare the diplomatic corps. We will extend an invitation to the human leadership, offer them technology, knowledge, alliance, but all precursor artifacts must be surrendered." "And if they refuse?" asked the avian creature. The crystalline beam's voice was cold as it replied, "Then, for the safety of all civilized species in the galaxy, humanity must not be allowed to awaken." Back on Europa, John Hayes dreamed of stars and power flowing through his veins, unaware that across the solar system, 3 other humans who had briefly handled the artifact before him were experiencing the same dreams and beginning to change. 3 weeks after the discovery on Europa, Earth received its first official alien visitors. The massive ship appeared at the edge of the solar system without warning. It moved past the outer planets at impossible speeds before settling into orbit around Earth. Captain Susan Wright stood at attention on the landing pad at the United Earth headquarters in Geneva. As military liaison to the diplomatic mission, she wore her formal uniform with all decorations. Around her, world leaders and representatives waited nervously. "Are you ready for this, Captain?" asked General Harrison at her side. "As ready as anyone can be for first contact, sir," Susan replied, her eyes fixed on the approaching shuttle. It descended gracefully, making almost no sound as it landed. The craft's door opened, revealing a tall figure with amber skin and 4 arms. Behind it came 6 other aliens of different species. The leader wore an ornate robe with symbols that reminded Susan of the ones John had described seeing on the Europa artifact. "I am Ambassador Zex Tool of the Araxian Empire, senior representative of the Galactic Confederation," the alien said in perfect English. "We come in peace and friendship to welcome humanity to the galactic community." The welcome ceremony moved inside to the Grand Hall. Ambassador Zex Tool presented impressive offers: medical technology that could cure most human diseases, faster than light travel capabilities, and access to resources on hundreds of worlds. "This is very generous," said the Secretary General. "What does the Confederation expect in return?" Zextol's 4 hands made a graceful gesture. "Very little. Open trade, cultural exchange, and—" The ambassador paused. "There is one small matter. We would request that any artifacts of unknown origin discovered in your system be turned over to Confederation scientists. Certain ancient technologies can be dangerous if mishandled." Susan felt a chill run through her. She had been briefed about the Europa find just yesterday. Later that evening, Susan contacted John Hayes via secure channel. His face on the screen looked tired. "How are things on Europa?" she asked. "Strange," John admitted. "Lisa has been analyzing the symbols from the artifact. She thinks they might be a form of genetic code, but not like anything we've seen before." "John, the alien specifically asked for any unknown artifacts to be handed over," Susan said quietly. "They arrived just weeks after you found it. That can't be coincidence." John's expression darkened. "I had the same thought. We've moved the artifact to a secure lab on sublevel 3. Only Lisa and I have access now." "Good. Keep it that way until we know more about our new friends," Susan said. "Something about this doesn't feel right." The next morning, Susan was asked to escort Ambassador Zex Toll on a tour of Earth's defense systems, a gesture of trust. As they walked through the command center, the ambassador asked casual questions about human biology, history, and capabilities. "Your species has accomplished much in such a short evolutionary timespan," Zex Toll remarked. "Tell me, Captain Wright, have there been any unusual genetic mutations among humans in recent centuries?" Susan kept her face neutral. "Nothing significant. We're a fairly standard carbon-based life form." "Of course," the ambassador replied. "It is simply that some species show unexpected developments when they reach space." That night, Susan couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the ambassador's questions and the artifact. Against all protocols, she used her security clearance to access the files about the Europa find. In the classified lab beneath Geneva headquarters, she found the artifact secured in a containment field. The urge to touch it was overwhelming. Susan removed the field and placed her hand on the smooth surface. The world exploded into light and color. Visions flooded her mind. Earth in flames, ships like Zextals filling the sky, and humans with glowing eyes fighting back with powers she couldn't comprehend. When she woke, she was on the floor, the artifact dark beside her. But something had changed. She could hear conversations 3 rooms away. She could feel the metal of her badge bending under fingers that suddenly felt too strong. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that the Confederation had not come to Earth as friends. In his private chambers aboard the Confederation vessel, Ambassador Zex Tull received an urgent message. One of their planted monitoring devices had detected an unusual energy surge in the building where Captain Wright had just accessed the artifact. "Accelerate the timetable," Zex Tull ordered. "It appears the awakening has already begun." 3 months after the Confederation arrived, Susan Wright sat in her small apartment, staring at the bent metal spoon in her hand. She hadn't used any tools to bend it. She had simply looked at it, felt a strange warmth in her mind, and watched as the metal folded like it was made of clay. It wasn't the first strange thing that had happened. Since touching the artifact, her reflexes had become impossibly fast. Last week, she had caught a falling coffee mug before it even left the table's edge. The day before, she had known exactly what General Harrison was going to say in their meeting seconds before he said it. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Through the peephole, she saw John Hayes. She quickly hid the bent spoon and let him in. "You look awful," she said, noticing the dark circles under his eyes. John ran a hand through his hair. "Haven't been sleeping well. The dreams are getting worse." Susan locked the door and lowered her voice. "What kind of dreams?" "War. I see our ancestors fighting with powers we can't understand. And I keep hearing a voice saying, 'Remember who you are.'" He looked at her carefully. "But that's not why I'm here. I know what's happening to you, Susan." She froze. "What are you talking about?" John reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal ball. He placed it on her coffee table, then held his hand over it. The ball slowly rose into the air, hovering an inch above the table's surface. "The same thing is happening to me," he said quietly. Susan sank into her chair. "How is this possible?" "Lisa has a theory. The artifact isn't just alien technology. It's activating something in our DNA, something that's been dormant for thousands of years." John let the ball drop back to the table. "She thinks all humans might have this potential, just locked away somehow." Outside Susan's apartment building, a figure watched from the shadows. The Confederation spy adjusted his human disguise and activated his communication device. "Confirmation of subject Wright showing signs of awakening," he whispered. "She is now in contact with Hayes from the Europa mission. Both appear to be in stage 1 of the emergence process." The response came immediately. "Maintain surveillance, but do not engage. Extraction teams are being prepared." The spy didn't notice Peter Campbell sitting in a car across the street, his government-issue surveillance equipment picking up every word of the alien transmission. Peter, an intelligence officer with Earth's security forces, had been assigned to monitor the Confederation representatives. He had suspected they were hiding something from the beginning. Now he had proof. Back in Susan's apartment, Lisa Miller had joined them via secure video link. "The symbols on the artifact aren't just writing," she explained, her face serious on the screen. "They're genetic instructions. I've compared them to human DNA sequences, and they match with parts of our genome that scientists have always called junk DNA, segments that seem to have no purpose." "So what exactly is happening to us?" Susan asked, demonstrating her new ability by lifting a cup without touching it. "I think the artifact is activating these dormant genes," Lisa replied. "It's like unlocking something that was deliberately locked away. And the changes seem to be accelerating with each person who goes through it." John nodded. "I can do things now I couldn't do a week ago. And sometimes I can sense other people like us. There are more awakening every day." Susan looked out her window at the Confederation ship hovering in the distance. "They know, don't they? That's why they came so quickly after we found the artifact. They don't want us to wake up." "The question is why," John said. "What are they so afraid humans might become?" As if in answer, Susan's phone rang. It was General Harrison, his voice tense. Captain Wright, report to headquarters immediately. The Confederation ambassadors have just demanded we turn over all research personnel who had contact with the Europa artifact. They're claiming it's an unstable weapon that could threaten Earth. Susan exchanged looks with John. We're out of time, she said. They're making their move. Across the city, in the Confederation embassy, Ambassador Zex Tool addressed his fellow delegates. The humans are awakening faster than predicted. We need to implement the containment protocol now, before they reach Stage 2 capabilities. A delegate from a gaseous species pulsed with anxiety. The last time humans reached full awakening, they nearly destroyed half the galaxy before we managed to suppress them. If they remember who they truly are, they won't get the chance, Zex Toll promised. The cleansing fleet is already on its way. The attack came at dawn. Confederation ships appeared suddenly in Earth's orbit, their weapons already firing at the orbital defense platforms. The official announcement claimed they were responding to human terrorists who had attacked Confederation diplomats. It was a lie. They're targeting military bases and research centers first, John said, watching the news feeds as Susan piloted their small shuttle away from Earth. The experimental ship Defiance was humanity's newest vessel, equipped with technology reverse-engineered from Confederation designs. It hadn't been fully tested yet, but they had no choice. Lisa sat behind them, the artifact secured in a special container beside her. We need to get to Mars, she said. Peter says he's established a secure facility in the southern underground complex. Susan nodded, pushing the engines harder. Did he get all the research data? Everything I could send him, Lisa confirmed. But I'm worried about the other people who touched the artifact. The Confederation will be hunting them specifically. 3 hours earlier, Peter Campbell had arrived at Susan's apartment with urgent news. The intelligence officer had intercepted communications revealing the Confederation's true plan: a full takeover of Earth, with special forces tasked with capturing or killing anyone who had contact with precursor technology. We can't let them take the artifact, Peter had insisted, and we need to save as many awakened humans as possible. Now, as their ship raced toward Mars, John closed his eyes and concentrated. Since his abilities had grown stronger, he'd discovered he could sense other awakened humans, like points of light in his mind. I can feel about 30 others, he said quietly. Most are still on Earth. Some are being moved. A few are. His face tightened with pain. Gone. Susan reached out and squeezed his hand. Her own abilities had developed differently. She could see moments before they happened, brief flashes of possible futures. Right now, those visions showed Confederation forces spreading across Earth's surface. They're going to occupy the planet, she said. Pretend to be peacekeepers while they hunt down anyone showing signs of awakening. Behind them, Lisa was reviewing data on her tablet. I've been comparing the genetic changes in both of you, she said. The artifact is definitely activating dormant sections of human DNA, but the changes are accelerating. Whatever abilities you're developing now, they're just the beginning. The Defiance shuddered as its engines pushed beyond safe limits. Mars grew larger in their view screen. Peter said he'd leave landing instructions at these coordinates, Susan said, inputting numbers into the navigation system. As they approached Mars, a hidden doorway opened in what appeared to be solid rock face, revealing a hangar built deep into the planet's surface. They landed carefully, and Peter met them at the airlock. You made it, he said, relief clear in his voice. We have about 60 people here now. Scientists, military personnel, and a few civilians who started showing abilities. He led them through a series of tunnels to a large chamber that had been converted into a command center. Screens showed news feeds from Earth, where Confederation ships now hovered over major cities. They're claiming to be protecting humanity from a dangerous faction that misused alien technology, Peter explained. Most people believe them. Why wouldn't they? But they're rounding up anyone connected to space programs or research into the artifacts. Lisa placed her container on a table and carefully removed the artifact. I made a breakthrough yesterday, she said. This isn't just alien technology. It's human. The others stared at her. What do you mean, human? John asked. The genetic code it activates is already in us, Lisa explained. And I found historical references in the artifact's data, references to a time when humans ruled this galaxy. The species in the Confederation aren't our superiors. They were once our subjects. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They engineered our downfall, Susan whispered. They found a way to lock away our abilities and trap us on Earth. Lisa nodded. And they've been monitoring us for thousands of years, making sure we never remembered who we really are. The artifact was created by humans who foresaw what was happening, a failsafe to awaken our species if we ever encountered the Confederation again. Peter pointed to a screen showing Ambassador Zex Tull addressing the United Nations. Then why reveal themselves now? Why not just destroy Earth? Because they're terrified of us, John said, understanding dawning in his eyes. They know what we're capable of if we fully awaken, and they know they might not be able to stop us this time. 6 months passed since the Confederation took control of Earth. The Mars base, now called Haven, had grown into a true resistance headquarters. What began with 60 people had expanded to over 300 as Peter's network smuggled more awakening candidates off Earth. Susan stood in the training chamber, watching 20 people practice with their newly discovered abilities. Some could move objects with their minds, others could generate heat or cold, and a few showed signs of being able to influence electronic systems. They're getting stronger faster than we did, John said, coming to stand beside her. His own powers had developed dramatically. He could now link minds with other awakened humans, creating a communication network that the Confederation couldn't detect or block. It's the collective effect, Lisa explained, joining them with her ever-present tablet. Each awakened human seems to strengthen the others. It's like the abilities resonate and amplify when you're together. In a corner of the room, a young man named Alan Foster was working with several children. All of them were born to parents who had awakened, and all showed abilities that had appeared naturally without needing contact with the artifact. The children are the most interesting case, Lisa continued. They're born already awakened. Their abilities are stronger and more instinctive than in adults who go through the process. Susan watched as a 6-year-old girl effortlessly lifted several metal balls and spun them in complex patterns while laughing. "What's happening on Earth?" she asked quietly. Peter walked in with the latest intelligence reports. The Confederation has established full control. Humans are treated as second-class citizens with strict curfews and limited rights. Anyone showing even slight signs of unusual abilities disappears. He pulled up images on a wall screen showing Confederation troops patrolling city streets. But our underground network is growing. We have cells in every major city now, identifying potential awakened humans and getting them off-planet when possible. Lisa pointed to another screen showing her laboratory. The good news is that Alan and I have developed a device that can safely trigger the awakening process in compatible humans. We don't need the original artifact anymore. We can replicate its effect. Susan felt a familiar sensation, the brief flash of seeing something before it happened. In her vision, alarms blared throughout the base. "We have a problem," she said, just as the actual alarms began to sound. John closed his eyes, linking to the base's security team. "Confederation scout ship," he reported. "They're scanning the area near our southern entrance." Everyone moved quickly to battle stations. Over the past months, they had prepared for this possibility. "They haven't found us yet," Peter said, checking the sensor readings. "But they're getting closer. Someone must have tracked one of our supply runs." Susan made a quick decision. "We need to send them in the wrong direction. John, get a team ready. We'll make them think our base is in the northern region." As they prepared for the mission, Lisa pulled Susan aside. "There's something else you should know," she said, her voice low. "I've been analyzing the full data from the artifact. The Confederation isn't just afraid of humans awakening. They're afraid of what happens when enough humans awaken at once." What do you mean? Susan asked. There appears to be a threshold, a critical mass of awakened humans that triggers something even bigger. The records call it the convergence. I think it's why they're so desperate to stop us. On Earth, in what was once the United Nations building but now served as Confederation headquarters, Military Governor Zex Toll received a disturbing report. The number of humans escaping our screening protocols has increased, said his security chief, and we've detected energy signatures consistent with Stage 2 awakening in several regions. Zex Toll's forearms tightened with tension. What about the Mars anomalies? Scout ships are investigating now. If there is a resistance base there, we'll find it. Zex Toll moved to the window, looking out at the human city that now lived under Confederation rule. Have the Supreme Council approved my request? Yes, Governor. The planet-killer weapons have been authorized if the awakening cannot be contained. Better to lose one planet than risk the emergence of fully awakened humanity again. Back on Mars, Susan and John prepared to lead the mission to misdirect the Confederation scouts. As they suited up, John suddenly gasped and clutched his head. What is it? Susan asked, alarmed. John's eyes were wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. I just felt something. Someone new awakening on Earth, someone powerful. I think it's beginning. Susan, the convergence that Lisa mentioned, humanity is starting to remember what it truly is. The raid on the Confederation archive ship was both desperate and necessary. Susan led a team of 6 awakened humans using the Defiance Asterisk, which they had modified with reverse-engineered Confederation technology. Their target orbited Jupiter, a massive vessel containing historical records from across the galaxy. Approaching target, Susan said, using her precognitive abilities to see the safest path forward. Their patrol ships will change course in 30 seconds, giving us a clear approach. John sat beside her, mentally linked with the other 4 awakened humans on their small strike team. Everyone's ready. Greg will handle their security systems. Karen and Eli will retrieve the data, and Maria and Sam will guard our exit. The mission went smoothly at first. Greg, who could manipulate electronic systems, created a blind spot in the archive ship's sensors. They docked in a maintenance bay and split into teams. Karen and Eli, both former data scientists, found the central archive chamber. Using their enhanced abilities, they downloaded vast amounts of information that might explain humanity's true history. But as they prepared to leave, an alarm sounded. We've been detected, John warned through their mental link. Confederation guards are converging on our position. Susan saw flashes of possible futures, most ending with their capture or death. But one path remained open. Maria, we need cover now. Maria Taylor had been quiet since joining the resistance. Her awakening had happened later than the others, triggered by extreme stress when Confederation forces killed her family. Her abilities had always been unstable, manifesting as powerful telekinetic outbursts when she was angry or afraid. Now, as Confederation guards approached from both directions, Maria stepped forward. Her eyes began to glow with blue light. The metal walls around them groaned and bent, as if caught in a massive invisible hand. The guards were thrown backward, pinned against walls by an unseen force. I can't hold this long, Maria gasped, blood trickling from her nose with the effort. They ran for the Defiance Asterisk, fighting their way through more guards. Inside the ship, Susan took the controls and piloted them away from the archive vessel at maximum speed. Back at Haven, Lisa and Peter waited anxiously for their return. When the team stumbled out of the Defiance Asterisk, exhausted but successful, Lisa immediately began analyzing the stolen data. Hours passed as she worked, translating the alien records. When she finally looked up, her face was pale with shock. I found it, she whispered. The complete history of the human containment war. The gathered resistance leaders listened in stunned silence as Lisa explained what she had discovered. 50,000 years ago, humans were the dominant species in this sector of the galaxy, she began. We weren't just spacefaring. We were powerful. Humans naturally developed what the records call psionic abilities as they matured: telekinesis, telepathy, energy manipulation, and more. Lisa scrolled through translated images showing ancient humans with glowing eyes commanding vast fleets of ships. We established colonies on thousands of worlds and helped many younger species develop. But then came the Civil War. The images changed to show human fighting human across the stars. Different factions of humanity fought over the direction of our civilization. The war lasted for centuries and devastated hundreds of worlds. During this time, many of the species that humans had helped saw their opportunity. Peter leaned forward. They turned against us. Lisa nodded. They formed an alliance, what would eventually become the Galactic Confederation. They developed a bioweapon that didn't kill humans but suppressed the parts of our genetic code that allowed for psionic abilities. Then they rewrote history, establishing themselves as the natural rulers of the galaxy. John's face hardened as he understood. They quarantined Earth, keeping a few humans as servants or curiosities, and made sure we would never remember what we once were. But some humans foresaw what was happening. Lisa continued. A group called the Precursors created failsafes, like our artifact, designed to reactivate human abilities if we ever encountered the Confederation again. As the implications sank in, Maria stood up suddenly. Her body trembled, and objects around the room began to shake. "They killed billions of us," she said, her voice eerily calm as her eyes began to glow. "They stole our history, our abilities, our rightful place. They've been watching us, keeping us caged like animals for thousands of years." The metal table in front of her crumpled like paper. Glass shattered. The lights flickered. "Maria, you need to calm," Susan began, but stopped as she saw what was happening. Maria wasn't just having an emotional outburst. She was undergoing a spontaneous evolution of her abilities. The glow in her eyes spread across her skin in intricate patterns that matched the symbols on the artifact. "I remember," Maria whispered. And then she collapsed, the energy around her dissipating. When she regained consciousness minutes later, she looked at the others with new awareness. "I know how to fight them now," she said simply. "And I know how to make all humans remember." The Haven base hummed with activity. In the month since Maria's breakthrough, everything had changed. The resistance was no longer just hiding. They were preparing to fight back. John stood in the command center, mentally connected to awakened humans across the solar system. His ability had grown exponentially, allowing him to link hundreds of minds into a single network. Through these connections, he coordinated operations on Earth, Mars, and the outer moons. "The training centers in Buenos Aires and Jakarta are operational," he reported, his eyes glowing softly as he spoke. "Peter's teams have already awakened over 200 people in each location." Susan nodded, studying the holographic map showing their growing resistance cells on Earth. "What about the Confederation patrols?" "We're staying ahead of them for now. The awakened humans and their police forces are helping us by feeding false information." Since Maria had shown them how to accelerate the awakening process, their numbers had grown rapidly. People who awoke now did so with greater control and stronger abilities than the first wave. Lisa entered with Alan Foster, both looking tired but excited. "The planetary device is nearly complete," Lisa said. "Once activated, it will broadcast the awakening signal globally. Any human with compatible genetics will begin the process instantly." "How many will that be?" Susan asked. Alan adjusted his glasses. "Based on our genetic sampling, approximately 40% of the human population has the necessary markers. That's over 3 billion people." The room fell silent as they considered the implications. 3 billion awakened humans would overwhelm the Confederation's control. "What about the children?" John asked. Lisa's expression softened. "They continue to amaze us. The children born to awakened parents are developing abilities we haven't seen before. Some can manipulate energy directly. Others appear to perceive different dimensions or realities, and they all seem to instinctively understand how to use their gifts." In the training area, Maria worked with a group of the most powerful awakened humans. Her own abilities had stabilized at a level that seemed impossible months ago. She could move massive objects, create shields of pure energy, and even manipulate the molecular structure of materials. The key is remembering. She explained to her students, "Our bodies know what to do. These abilities are natural to us. The Confederation didn't just take our history, they took our birthright." On Earth, the Confederation was growing desperate. Governor Zextol received reports of awakened humans appearing in every major city. His security forces would capture one, only to find 10 more the next day. "We're losing control," his security chief admitted. "The human resistance seems to know our movements before we make them." Zextol's 4 arms moved in patterns of extreme stress. "Deploy the doomsday weapons. The Supreme Council has authorized Earth's destruction. Better to eliminate the planet than face fully awakened humanity again." From orbit, 5 massive Confederation ships moved into position, each carrying a weapon designed to fracture a planet's core. The plan was simple but brutal. Better to destroy one world than risk the re-emergence of the species that had once dominated the galaxy. What they didn't know was that Susan had foreseen this moment weeks ago. Her precognitive abilities had shown her the Confederation's final solution, and the Resistance was ready. As the Confederation prepared to fire their planet killers, 20 small craft left Mars, each piloted by a single awakened human. These weren't ordinary pilots. They were individuals like Maria, whose abilities had evolved to extraordinary levels. Susan led the mission, her mind already seeing the paths to success. "Everyone stay connected to John's network," she reminded them as they approached the massive Confederation ships. "Remember your training. We only get one chance at this." The small human ships moved with impossible precision, evading defensive fire as if they knew exactly where each shot would go, because thanks to Susan, they did. Back on Mars, John maintained the mental link with Susan's team, while also connecting to the cells on Earth. "Get ready," he told Peter, who was positioned with the planetary awakening device. "As soon as Susan's team disables those ships, we activate the signal." Peter checked the device one final time. Built from modified Confederation technology and powered by the energy of hundreds of awakened humans, it was designed to broadcast a signal that would trigger the dormant genes in billions of humans simultaneously. "This is it," he whispered. "The moment humanity remembers." In orbit, Susan's ship approached the lead Confederation vessel. Through her mental link, she could feel the fear radiating from the alien crew as they detected her approach. They had good reason to be afraid. After 50,000 years, humanity was about to reclaim its place in the stars.